members of the Governing Council, members of the Governing Board, and the AU Secretary General, Professor Oyeola, Vice Chancellors, Deputy Vice Chancellors, and other institutional heads who are gathered here. Our distinguished keynote presenters, Dr. Christine Mushebwe, who is also the Vice Chancellor of UNICAF University in Zambia, and Madam Martha Muhezi, who is the Executive Director of the Forum for African Women Educationalists. This is FAWE. Our moderator for the high-level panel discussion, Dr. Beatrice Kamati Njenga, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Institutional Advancement, International Leadership University in Kenya. Our honorable panel discussants in the persons of Dr. Rita Bisonoth, who is the Director for the African Union International Center for Girls and Women's Education in Africa, AUCFA, which is located in Burkina Faso. We also have Professor Amani El Sharif, who is the Vice President for the Pan-African University and also the coordinator for AAU North Africa Regional Office. We have Dr. Insika Abesim Etim, who is a male panelist, and he is with the Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension, University of Oyo in Nigeria. Then we have a student panelist in the person of Temitope Adewale, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. Our honorable panel discussants, we welcome all of you, stakeholders from various African higher education institutions and industry, invited guests, distinguished participants, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I warmly welcome you all on behalf of the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities and on behalf of the Women in Higher Education Network to today's event, the International Women's Day Celebration Forum, which is being hosted by the Women in Higher Education Network, Wohen, and the Association of African Universities. Indeed, the 8th of March is set aside globally for the celebration of the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality, and therefore we are very privileged to have all of you join us here today to mark this important day, which has been celebrated for well over a century. The theme for our celebration this year is Breaking the Bias in African Higher Education, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. In line with Wohen and the AU being key players and advocates on issues of women empowerment in African higher education, we organized this virtual session on the theme to bring all key stakeholders to have discussions which will advance the agenda of ensuring that our women in African higher education are fully empowered. We are also using this platform to encourage all of us, our keynote presenters, our high-level panel discussants, and all participants to contribute to shaping the discussions on the issues of breaking the biases in African higher education and to lay down practical steps regarding how we can all contribute much more effectively to create a fair and equal environment for both men and women in our respective institutions. For those of us who are hearing about Wohen for the first time, Wohen was established to address the unfair practices that affect women and prevent them from achieving their potential, and also to ensure that women actually rise to the topmost positions in the various African higher education institutions. It is doing this through advocacy, through education, and through research programs. And therefore, we are using this platform to also invite as many as possible, as many women as possible to join the network. Without further ado, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we would like to dive deep into our discussions for the day. The first item on the program is a message to be delivered by Ms. Nodumod Lamini, who is the Director of ICT, Communications and Knowledge Management here at the Association of African Universities. If Ms. Nodumo is ready, I would like to hand over to her. You can take the floor, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Felicia. Mine is really to introduce my boss, Professor Oyeola. and to also greet everybody and wish all of us a happy International Women's Day. I'm happy to take this opportunity to introduce my boss, Professor Olushola Oyeola, who is the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities. But today I would like to introduce him more as a father, and also a father to daughters. I would also like to introduce him as a mentor and a role model in terms of leadership and how to support women to succeed. He is also the former Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Agriculture in Abeokuta, Nigeria, where he has worked as a professor of food science and technology, not only at the Federal University of Agriculture, but in other universities as well in Nigeria and across the continent. As a professor of food science and technology, he has supervised many female and male students, both at master's and PhD level, and he also continues to do this mentoring. He is a publisher of several scholarly and peer-reviewed journal articles, book chapters, books, conferences, and technical papers. He loves to read, he loves to buy books. He believes that we should write and publish our knowledge and our history as African higher education institutions. He has previously been a board member of the Association of African Universities and the president of the association, and he has also worked for the African Union Commission. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Obafemi Awolowo University and a Master of Science degree from the University of Ibadan, and a doctorate degree in food science and technology, also from the prestigious University of Ibadan. Professor Oyeola, you are most welcome. I hope your microphone is on, and we look forward to receiving your message today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my very dear sister, Madam Odumo, and also my sister Felicia. As the leading voice for higher education in Africa, I consider it a responsibility to lend my voice and add support to the breaking of the bias against our women. These biases are views, beliefs, and harmful activities that limit the capacities of women to develop their personal abilities, pursue professional careers, and restrict them to only cultural roles imposed on women by our society. For a very long time in history, women's right to education, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom from gender-based violence, and access to a good standard of living, and making free choices about marriage and relationship has been limited. And these have been the basis of the great bias against our women. Many people listening to me this morning will agree that in Africa, the girl child is less favored in terms of access to good education, access to good jobs, and rising up to occupy top leadership positions. We all need to work together to change this narrative in our time, because when our women are educated, they can effectively participate in economic, social, and political activities as leaders and effective stakeholders. Even though progress has been made to increase the enrollment of girls in schools, there remains a great deal to be done to ensure the pipeline of women in higher education as students, administrators, researchers, and leaders increases in proportion to the population of women in Africa. All of us have roles of ensuring that biases, including gender-based violence against women, come to an end. We must harness women's knowledge, women's skills and talents at all levels of the problem-solving process and ensure that in line with the SDG Goal 5, we achieve gender equality and empower all women and our girls. What are the strategies that we need to adopt to stop the bias against our women? Number one, we need to give women equal access to education in Africa. Number two, let us encourage the leadership spirit in our women and give them equal playing grounds to compete with the men's fold. Indeed, the women that have been given opportunities have proved themselves in our society. Number three, we need to take definite actions to inspire, network, and empower women. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to promote the freedom of women to education, freedom of women to economic investment, freedom of women to business opportunities, free movement, free choices, and free expression of freedom of expression in our society. What we are saying today is this, ladies and gentlemen, let us build and nurture gender enabling systems to foster women's economic empowerment. According to the UN Women, some gender enabling systems to promote women's economic empowerment include professional and personal life integration, standard of conduct, security and safety, occupational safety, health and well-being, recruitment, talent management, retention, as well as leadership, including accountability. A situation where our women, our girls, are driven out of classrooms because they do not want them to have access to education should no longer be allowed to go on in our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, let us promote the type of education that will allow our women to pursue professional ambitions, choose their own career preferences. Let us promote ethical values that will promote women from gender-based violences and discrimination. If you are listening to me, we need to commit ourselves to respecting our women. Let us honor our women. Let us appreciate our women for who they are and for what they do. Let us collaborate to tear down the stereotypes and negative cultural beliefs that have been used to limit the potentials of our women. On this occasion of our Women's Day celebration, let us celebrate our great women and celebrate their great contributions to mankind, our society, and our establishment. In concluding this brief introductory speech, permit me to praise the resilience of our women in building our society and the great sacrifices that our women had made in the past, which they are still making today. Just yesterday, we celebrate Ghana's Day in Ghana here. I feel proud of Ghana as a country, and I see the role that our women have played. I believe that education has an important role to play in helping us to build our mothers and our future mothers. When we educate our women's folds, we are building our future and we are building our nations and the continent as well. The Association of African Universities is very proud of the Women in Higher Education Network and the great work it is doing to ensure that issues concerning women are always highlighted and prioritized. I want to appreciate Felicia and also appreciate Madam Odumo and the other team in this network. We are proud of the many women who are now becoming vice chancellors in many universities in Africa. We celebrate them all. I'm optimistic that their leadership will continue to be the models that will help to defeat the cultural practices and biases against the women in Africa. On this occasion of the 2022 International Women's Day, let me appreciate the 3 honorable women who are members of the governing board of AAU. Professor Teresa Inko Akenji, Vice President of AAU, Central African Region, who is also the Vice Chancellor of Bamenda University in Cameroon. I appreciate you, Madam. Let us also celebrate Professor Lillian Iwetian Salami, the Vice President, West African Region and Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin, Benin City, Nigeria. We celebrate you, and I want to appreciate you for the phone call you gave to me yesterday. And finally, let us appreciate Professor Elizabeth Olanide, a board member of AAU Governing Board, who is representing the West African region, and she is also the Vice Chancellor of Afe Babalola University, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to end up this opening speech without acknowledging the great women at the AAU Secretariat who are advancing the work that we do at the Association of African Universities. Permit me to mention Madam Nodumo Lamini, our Director of ICT, Communication and Knowledge Management, Dr. Sylvia Nkatawire, the manager in charge of the African Centers of Excellence for Development Impact Project, which is being funded by the World Bank and the AFD. Our Human Resource Manager, your special Mrs. Yvette Kwachi, and our Monitoring and Evaluation Specialist, Mrs. Adeline Adi. I believe that we are one of the best in our continent. I want to also celebrate Dr. Violet Makuku, our Quality Assurance Specialist, and Mrs. Felicia Wadezi, who oversees our communication operations. You will see that AAU is depending on our women. They are great here. I deeply appreciate all of you. I also deeply appreciate all the other wonderful and hardworking women staff members of AAU, not just in our headquarters here, but also in our regional offices. I can see that Professor Amani El Sharif is on this platform. We celebrate you. I appreciate all the women in our various universities across Africa and look forward to greater support for the African women to break these age-long barriers that have limited women for a very long time. My final appreciation goes to the men who have joined us today on this platform, and indeed to all men who believe in the empowerment of women and who support women in their various environments and institutions. Let me especially salute our father, Baba Professor Pai Obanya. I can see him also on this platform. We are always proud of you. Thank you for connecting to this platform. Congratulations to all of us. Indeed, special congratulations to our women on this occasion of 2020 Women's Day. Long live the Women in Higher Education Network. Thank you very much for your attention. We are proud of all of you. God bless you.
Thank you, Prof. Oyeola. Felicia, over to you.
Thank you much, Madam Nodumu, and thank you very much, Professor Oyeola, for that powerful message and for highlighting the need for all of us as stakeholders to create gender-enabling systems. I think you really laid down specifically what each of us can do in our institution to ensure that we are creating an enabling environment for our women to grow and to become powerful as well. Thank you so much. So moving on to the next item on the program, at this point, we would receive a keynote presentation on the theme Breaking the Bias, in African Higher Education, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And this will be delivered by Dr. Christine Mushegwe, who is the Vice Chancellor at the UNICAF University in Zambia. If Dr. Christine is ready, would like to hand over to her so that she makes her presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege, and the celebratory messages that have just come from Professor, I think they deserve appreciation. Thank you so much, Professor. I wish that women could be celebrated like this throughout the year and not necessarily on Women's International Day. It's really good. And this day is something that we need to hold to heart, because the women that came before us, I think those women laid the foundation. The aim and the need for this particular day, and what was so significant was what they were fighting for. And obviously now we know one of the things was women were supposed to have the ability to vote. and we are now able to vote. And so as women now, we need to begin to look at the many other things that are making it difficult for us to be able to participate equally with our male folk. I've got a cold, which I've had for the past two weeks. It's not COVID, and it's not going to spread to anyone because obviously it's a virtual conference, but I'm so privileged to be counted with this morning. I'm saying this morning in Zambia, I think it's just about afternoon. So please permit me to share this screen.
Yes, we can see, Prof. You just have to put it on full mode. Yeah, it's okay now. Thank you.
Right. So we already are aware of the theme of this conference, which is breaking the biases in African higher education. Vice Chancellor for UNICAF University, as it has already been made mention, I became Vice Chancellor for the first time in 2018 with the University of Africa. And after being a Deputy Vice Chancellor for about a year, I was so happy because I took over from a man. I think I would still have been very happy if I took over from my fellow woman, but I took over from a man who handed over the Vice Chancellorship to me. The most unfortunate thing that happened was that when I took over as Vice Chancellor, a number of things needed to be changed. And so one of the things was the salary that they said, no, I didn't deserve what the previous Vice Chancellor was getting. Other things also were to do with housing allowance. My previous Vice Chancellor was accommodated in this house that was costing close to 20,000 kwacha. And I was given 6,000 kwacha. And I was thinking, I began saying, can I please be allowed to move in that same house where he's moved out from so that you can be paying the same amount of money. And there were many other things that needed to be changed. One of them was that, no. The whole accounting department is not going to be under you. It will now be under, it was given to somebody else. And, that made me very uncomfortable, even after having been given this position of Vice Chancellorship. And I began wondering, is it the person of Christine that you are dealing with or the office of the Vice Chancellor? Because a particular office, not anybody can occupy it, whether female or male. And I think that is what we really need to get, because a number of times I've heard men cry out, women just want what men want. It's not that. It's about being given the same opportunities. The same opportunities. And that is why today we are talking about breaking the biases that are there in African higher education. I'm one person that has supervised a number of PhD students as well as master's students. And most of these are women. They are normally given to me, although I know the first PhD candidate that I supervised was in engineering. And I was very happy that this university decided to give him to me. And he graduated. He was the first graduate of University of Lusaka. I'm sure you know about University of Lusaka, which is one of the common private universities in Zambia. I was very happy. But later on, I began noticing that they started pushing the women to me, which is a good thing because I want also to see women emerge and become PhD holders. But then I began thinking, why are they giving me more women, not men? Because again, you're looking at, are they considering me to be able to, not to, to supervise the men qualitatively, or I'm only able to supervise the women? And I think, again, that is another bad place where we can be. But one of the things I wanted to say why I have mentioned that is there are so many women now that are doing their PhD. There are so many women now that have gone to do their master's qualifications. And if these women are in higher education institutions, why, after they have managed to gain these qualifications, are they not being considered for leadership positions in African universities? I hope my slides are moving.
Yes,
okay.
They are.
So one of the things that I like most is a passage that is in the Bible. Those that read the Bible, it says, consider others better than yourself. And it calls upon those that believe in Christianity, that we need to consider others better than ourselves. And when I look at that passage, I feel very, very glad, because when it says consider others better than yourself, it is actually looking at the man and telling the man to consider himself, not to consider himself better than the woman. Just like the woman is also being told not to consider herself better than the man, because we are the same. So when we consider others better than ourselves, what we actually will be saying is that we are better together. So if I consider the man to be better than me, and the man also considers himself to be better than, that the woman is better than him, then together we shall be able to make Africa stand. So it's about looking at ourselves. This is a long write-up, but I wanted to read it out. It came from Nalova and Etang. And it says, African women historically have proved themselves to be astute managers of homes and local economies due to their triple roles. Yet many higher education institutions globally and in Africa in particular perceive women as unequal for substantial leadership positions. These institutions seem to regard leadership as a male feature in which women are not substantively represented, thus disregarding the norms of social justice. However, while there are attempts made—
Yes, we can see, Prof. You just have to put it on full mode. Yeah, it's okay now. Thank you.
Right. So we already are aware of the theme of this conference, which is breaking the biases in African higher education. Vice Chancellor for UNICAF University, as it has already been made mention. I became Vice Chancellor for the first time in 2018 with the University of Africa. And after being a Deputy Vice Chancellor for about a year, I was so happy because I took over from a man. I think I would still have been very happy if I took over from my fellow woman, but I took over from a man who handed over the Vice Chancellorship to me. The most unfortunate thing that happened was that when I took over as Vice Chancellor, a number of things needed to be changed. And so one of the things was the salary, that they said, no, I didn't deserve what the previous Vice Chancellor was getting. Other things also were to do with housing allowance. My previous Vice Chancellor was accommodated in this house that was costing close to 20,000 kwacha. And I was given 6,000 kwacha. And I was thinking, I began saying, can I please be allowed to move in that same house where he's moved out from, so that you can be paying the same amount of money. And there were many other things that needed to be changed. One of them was that, no. The whole accounting department is not going to be under you. It will now be under, it was given to somebody else. And that made me very uncomfortable, even after having been given this position of Vice Chancellorship. And I began wondering, is it the person of Christine that you are dealing with, or the office of the Vice Chancellor? Because a particular office, not anybody can occupy it, whether female or male. And I think that is what we really need to get, because a number of times I've heard men cry out, women just want what men want. It's not that. It's about being given the same opportunities. The same opportunities. And that is why today we are talking about breaking the biases that are there in African higher education. I'm one person that has supervised a number of PhD students as well as master's students. And most of these are women. They are normally given to me, although I know the first PhD candidate that I supervised was in engineering. And I was very happy that this university decided to give him to me. And he graduated. He was the first graduate of University of Lusaka. I'm sure you know about University of Lusaka, which is one of the common private universities in Zambia. I was very happy. But later on, I began noticing that they started pushing the women to me, which is a good thing, because I want also to see women emerge and become PhD holders. But then I began thinking, why are they giving me more women, not men? Because again, you're looking at, are they considering me to be able to, not to, to supervise the men qualitatively, or I'm only able to supervise the women. And I think, again, that is another bad place where we can be. But one of the things I wanted to say, why I have mentioned that, is there are so many women now that are doing their PhD. There are so many women now that have gone to do their master's qualifications. And if these women are in higher education institutions, why, after they have managed to gain these qualifications, are they not being considered for leadership positions in African universities? That is what he's looking at. He's insisting that there are too many women in the teaching fraternity. There are too many women in universities. And as far as he's concerned in the Caribbean nation, that these women now are impacting negatively on the men. The men are not doing what they're supposed to do as men. They are now cowering out of school. So the higher numbers of students in school now, then there's also literature, like Ida Hossa has indicated that there's lack of comprehensive data on the representation of female leadership in higher education, and which is very true. I've looked around for a lot of statistics. I would have loved to have statistics that show all the countries in Africa and how the women are doing in leadership, especially in higher education. But again, you find that there's limited literature. Most of the literature you get is either in Ghana, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Kenya, and a bit of it also in Zimbabwe. Even the research that we did with this colleague of mine, the problem that was there was getting statistics that is showing the representation of female leadership in higher education in Africa. Kelly and Peterson also confirmed the disproportionate representation ratio between men and women in African education institutions. And there are so many other authors or research that has been able to indicate that. I tried to pick out Ethiopia there, where again, we are being told that observation has been made with respect to women in top leadership positions. The figures seem to be becoming weaker, and we are celebrating, the many years of International Women's Day, where we are looking at empowering women and ensuring that women are now taking these top jobs. But can you imagine that now we are talking about this becoming a weaker situation? So we need to, as much as possible, begin to fight, especially in higher education institutions, because we say education, when you educate a woman, then you educate the whole nation. And if we are in the education fraternity, then we really need to stand and fight for this. South Africa also has talked about the same thing. Nigeria has also talked about the same thing. Uganda has talked about the same thing. Uganda says, Nakamanya and others observe that there is a dearth of women occupying leadership positions in universities. And that was just in 2017, which is not very far away. It's not 10 years ago, but they're able to say that there's a dearth of women occupying leadership positions in universities in Uganda. In Zambia, if you can see those statistics, they are quite good. And these were given by the Higher Education Authority in Zambia in 2020. Now, if you look at these statistics, there's a bit of a disparity, especially in public universities and private universities. But still, you are able to see that the population of women in higher education is high. And that is where I am asking, where is the disconnect? If we can have such kind of women in universities, both at public and private level, where is the disconnect? Why does the woman become incapable of taking the lead if they are the majority at the primary and secondary level? Our statistics here in Zambia are able to demonstrate that now the enrollment of women is very high, in fact, higher than that of boys at primary level. And it's the same thing even in secondary schools. We are now showing statistics where there are more girls in school than before. And then to these educated women. Are we saying that our universities do not have these educated women? And I wanted to give also these statistics that came from World Bank, UNESCO, and Council of Higher Education. You can see for yourselves, as of 2016, the statistics that came were only for Ghana, which indicated that there was 20.2% of women in higher education leadership. Senegal had 12.4. South Africa had 33.4. And that was as of 2016. And the statistics came from these groups, which are very, very important. And I wanted to zero in South Africa. This is a situation that was given of universities, the male versus female managers in South African traditional universities. The blue is for the male and the female is green. Now, if you look at the green automatically from there, you don't need to look at which university is this, but look at the green and where the blue is, showing that in traditional universities, it is the male managers or the vice chancellors that are taking the place. I also zeroed in to look at the technology. Remember, we've also got this whole thing of saying women are not doing so well in science, they're not doing so well in technology, are not doing so well in mathematics, and as well as the arts. And you can see that in these universities, it's the men that are dominating. And if the men are dominating, where do we expect to see our women? Because the women are also supposed to see these other women that are also up there in leadership as their mentors. These are supposed to be their influencers. These are supposed to be women that stand out there for them to be able to say, I can also be a vice chancellor. And so the inequality, when I've looked at it and some of the books that I've written, I've perceived that it is grounded in men lead and women follow philosophy. And we see this enshrined in our traditional cultures. And the other syndrome is the normalization of the wow and or male body as the embodiment of knowledge. The white, that is supposed to be white, the white and or male body as the embodiment of knowledge, intelligence, and leadership qualities. There is this normalization, in most, especially African nations, where the white man is looked up as the owner of the knowledge, the intelligence, the leadership. I remember growing up and my grandmother saying, wow, only the white man can actually fly a plane. And I began thinking, oh my goodness, then I have got knows where am I going to, how am I going to fly a plane if it is only a white man that can fly a plane? Now that has also moved now. It is the man, where we feel that the male body is the embodiment of knowledge. Yesterday, I was a keynote speaker at Millennium University, who were also hosting an international conference. And one of the men made a comment and said that men are smart. And I said, wow, that is interesting. If men are smart, then who made them smart? Because they are brought up by women. I don't see any man that has been brought up completely given birth to by a woman, by a man, and brought up by a man. It's the woman. And these women impart in these men the knowledge they talk about. And I know, yes, there is the reading, there is the schools that they go to, but there is so much that the woman imparts in the man for him to be a smart man. And we think that the man is the embodiment of intelligence and leadership qualities. He may have that, but women as well are the embodiment of knowledge. They are the embodiment of intelligence and the embodiment of leadership qualities. They are there because they're able to demonstrate that right in the home itself. And this is also perpetuated by men and fellow women. You can appreciate the men probably perpetuating it, but the worst part of it is where the women are perpetuating this men lead and women follow. A number of times when I do research among the traditional women, they always come down on me and tell me, you go back where you have come from. And I'm telling them, I'm right here in Zambia. Says, no. You go back to the white people because you seem to be perpetuating the white man's knowledge. A woman cannot lead. A woman cannot do this. A woman is supposed to be ABCD. And these same women are the women we normally send our daughters to be traditionally taught. And what do we think will come out of that? Even in this conference that was there yesterday, where I was a keynote speaker, one of the things that came out was that if they take a woman lecturer to a class and introduce her, the faces of the female students go down. And when they are asked, the female students say that the female lecturers are so hard on them. And if they become leaders in universities, the female leaders are so hard on the other members. So the institutional and intellectual cultures which claim neutrality, but are in fact permeated with sexual and gender dynamics. That is true and it is there. But who are perpetuating that? If we as women who are in leadership, like now here we are, There's a very good number here. I'm looking at the participants, the number has gone to 289. And if the majority of us are in leadership, what are we doing? Because the previous women, the reason why we are celebrating this Women's Day is because they did something for us. They prepared something for us. That's why we are celebrating. What are we doing? Marginalization, tokenism, isolation, you can mention them. You know, these are commonalities in the experiences of women leadership in higher education within Africa. And even the research that I did, the one I talked about, these are certain things that came out. You know, again, this philosophy that I'm talking about is also supported by oppressive institutional and cultural practices and male-dominated structures, forms of subtle and overt discrimination. And they are really, really subtle now. For instance, myself as a vice chancellor, one of the things that I get, because my university, the honors are in Cyprus, but you can easily get this subtle discrimination where my DVC, who is the man, in a meeting, you can hear them say, I think the DVC is going to do it. And you're wondering, why should the DVC do it? Because it is supposed to be under my office. I look at my job description and I'm seeing that I'm supposed to be working on the strategic, the strategy of the university. And I'm told, no. I think let's give it to the DVC. And if you're not clever, you can easily say, yes, let it go to the DVC. But I think we need to stand and be able to say, no, that is discrimination. I am capable of doing this. So most of these.
Sorry, Prof. Excuse me, Prof. Sorry, apologies. I think we are running a little bit behind time. So if we can give you 5 more minutes, that would be great. So
okay, no problem.
Thanks.
No problem. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to also look at is affirmative action. Affirmative action is very, very important. And I know that it has been so radical in ensuring that women have been put in a number of leadership positions. But what we need to know, I think Lucky Dube sang, that affirmative action is good, but we need to know that education is crucial to instilling relevant knowledge, skills, and attitudes to take up leadership roles. Yes, we can be promoted through affirmative action, but we shouldn't depend upon that. It is our education. Let's ensure that we educate more women so that they have the right knowledge, they have the right skills and the right attitudes. Affirmative action can be there, but we need to know that it's education that is very important. I'll not go through this. These are some of the biases and all that we need to be able to break. But I wanted to also talk about the organization cultures that are informed by our traditional cultures. These perpetuate stereotypes and biases. The culturally restrictive environment, the cultural mindsets that fellow women also have, the social culture prejudices that limit women leadership functions, and the undervaluing of the woman's voice. I'll try to be quick there. Our belief system that we talked about, which I've already made mention of, let us not shut down the voices of the woman, because the woman is able to do as much as what the man is able to do. In 2015, I came up with a paper, and what I was looking at was SMART. And these acronyms, SMT, R, and T, were looking at straight, meticulous, articulate, rational, and trustworthy. And I think as women, when I talk about we empower ourselves to make use of the empowerment from outside, we need to begin to look at ourselves. We need to be steady. We need to be tough. We shouldn't fear anybody. If we are going to be in leadership positions, especially in higher education, we need to be meticulous, where we can respect ourselves and take pride of ourselves. We need to be articulative in our, the way we speak, how we are able to be coherent, persuasive, where we have got the confidence, knowing the business. What is the university here for? What are the values of this university? And we are rational beings. So let us not depend upon what men say that we are emotional beings. Even men are emotional beings. It is good for men also to cry. And we need to be trustworthy. In a number of places I've gone to, men have complained that women lack confidentiality. But we need to know that these roles we are going to be occupying, they require that we do not divulge company information. So remember that education is still crucial. We are the wheels of development. We are capable, we are the life force. And please let us not, like the Daily and Dalton indicated that too often the male directors are mere soaps to appease the public opinions. There's a scripture there from the Bible. We can braid our hair, we can adorn ourselves, but let our beauty be that is right inside. Women bring men up. What are the teachings? What are we teaching them? What are we inculcating in them? What are we training them to be? Because if we are the ones that are the major upbringing parents in a home, why do we still have men that discriminate against the women? And so in conclusion, it's looking at the direction. Let's look at the inclusion aspect, the integration aspect, the development of the women, because this is not going to be sustainable. Whatever we are doing is not going to be sustainable. We continue to see literature which says the first pilot, the first female pilot, the first female this, the first female whatever. This is the 21st century. We shouldn't be talking about the first. We need to see more women. Like right here now in Zambia, I'm the only female vice chancellor in a private university, where we have 54 private universities. There's only one female vice chancellor in a country that has got 9 public universities. And I'm sure one of the things we also have is only one female chancellor. And when she became the female chancellor, you should have heard the papers wanted to interview her. Let's celebrate this first, but let us not be comfortable that there's a first, and continue in the 21st century celebrating the first woman doing ABCD. A supportive environment insists on fair and equal opportunities. Women should be the voice that speaks out, the voice of reason, the voice that challenges, the voice that is able to silence those voices that say we are not capable. Women are supposed to be strategic. They're supposed to be performative, flexibility. Networking is very important. What we are doing here, from what I've seen in the countries where a lot of people have come from, this is as a result of networking. We need to begin to shift from verbatim to being practical, overhauling restrictive policies. If we become a vice chancellor, look at the policies that are restricting the moving of women from the ground to these leadership positions. And we need to begin to change the cultural narrative. It is us, the women, that perpetuate these cultural traditional practices. Yes, the men have said them, but we are the ones that teach them. We are the ones narrative, because we can actually do that. So mentoring strategies, for instance, to ensure sustainable development of these women and their successes. What are these strategies? When we get into these, the workshop, can we look at some of these strategies? Some of them, I think the previous speaker was able to identify. And how can we ensure their implementation and their sustainability? Otherwise, we shall remain as verbatim. We shall continue holding these conferences and still talk about very few women in leadership positions. I'm looking forward to a time when we can say we've got a 50-50 kind of parity where women are in leadership. And someone was asking me yesterday, do you want a situation where all the presidents in the world are women? I wouldn't mind, but that is not what we are fighting for. We are fighting for a 50-50 parity. Provide the opportunities that the women should be able to take them, because we are now more educated. We now have the skills, and we can actually lead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christine Muchigbe, for that very excellent presentation. I think from the comments, it is clear that your presentation has been a good one, and I'm sure if we had more time, it would have been great, so that we get to learn more from you. Hopefully by the next time, the next few years, we should have more female vice chancellors and more women in positions, in top positions in Zambia, and indeed across the continent, because the situation is actually one which is reflected across the continent and not only Zambia. We are very privileged to have you. For those of us who joined late, I would like to briefly go through the bio of our keynote presenter, and she's in the person of Dr. Christine Mushigwe, who is the Vice Chancellor, UNICAF University in Zambia. She has an excellent record in academic and institutional leadership, having served in leadership positions in a number of institutions. She's an ardent educationist and an experienced HR professional and consultant. She is a winner of the prestigious award of Africa's Most Influential Woman in Business and Government by CEO Global as the regional winner and the country winner. This was in recognition of her impact in the number of institutions served in her own capacity and in various leadership roles. She attained her PhD at Huddersfield University, where she worked as lead tutor. In her capacity as lead tutor, she taught in various universities in China, and she further worked as an associate lecturer at Leeds Trinity University. Christine is the author of the highly acclaimed books titled The Effect of Cultural Traditions on the Education of Women, among several other achievements that she has been able to attain. Thank you very much, Dr. Christine, and we are very happy to have you join us here today. I think people are asking for your presentation, so we'll do well to make sure we get it from you so that we can share with all participants. Moving on to the next item on our program is a keynote presentation. It's a keynote address, and this will be given by Madam Martha Muhwezi, who is the Executive Director of Forum for African Women Educationalists. This is FAWE. Just to go through her bio, Martha heads the FAWE Regional Secretariat and is responsible for the day-to-day management of the organization. She ensures that FAWE Regional Secretariat's fiscal operations, fundraising, advocacy, human resource, and programmatic strategies are effectively implemented across the FAWE network. She previously served as the Senior Program Coordinating Officer, supporting FAWE programs and activities in 34 FAWE national chapters in line with the FAWE strategic objectives. Before joining FAWE Africa, Martha served in FAWE Uganda as technical advisor for almost 3 years before rising to become Executive Director of FAWE Uganda. Before joining FAWE, she worked as Program Officer with Child Fund International. Martha has been engaged in gender mainstreaming, gender budgeting and audit, governance, strategic planning, training and facilitation, advocacy, among several other key activities that she has been engaged in. She holds a master's degree in women's studies and a bachelor's degree in education from Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda. If Madam Martha is ready, would like to hand over to her to make her presentation. And her presentation is for 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Felicia, and thanks everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. Yes, you've told me I have 5 minutes. I'll try to say a few words within those 5 minutes. But first of all, I just want to wish everybody a very happy Women's Day. And like it was said, I think every day should be a Women's Day, not just the 8th of March. But again, 8th of March brings us together to celebrate ourselves and to celebrate many women in our lives. Allow me to stand on the existing protocol just in the interest of time. And I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very grateful for AAU to having given me this opportunity to be part of this gathering. And again, I want to believe it was for a purpose. And this goes back in the works that we have done and that we have acknowledged the other women to have done. The 8th of March, which is set aside internationally to celebrate women, should indeed be a key day on the calendar for every organization that prioritizes the empowerment of women, and also organizations that recognize the contribution of women to advancement of society. I therefore acknowledge the Women in Higher Education Network and the Association of African Universities for hosting today's event, and more important, for inviting FAWE to be part of this. For the benefit of those who may not be familiar with FAWE, we are a Pan-African non-government organization and was founded way back in 1992 by 5 women ministers of education to promote girls and women's education in sub-Saharan Africa in line with education for all. And I want to say that these were visionary women, and they are the same women that we are talking about today. Like the previous speaker said, we are standing on the legacy that has been developed by many women that have struggled, they have fought wars, and many of us are now benefiting from that. And our mission as FAWE is to work with our partners to create positive societal attitudes. We are talking about attitudes, we are talking about policies, we are talking about practices, and all these in terms of creating or promoting equity for girls in terms of access. We look at retention, we look at performance and education quality, and also by influencing the transformation of education systems in Africa. I want to believe that is very key and therefore befitting that FAWE is part of this gathering. An important forum such as this one is providing us all an opportunity, and this opportunity is to review the past progress of women's development in Africa, in African higher education space. But as we do this, we are also looking ahead to put in place measures which will ensure the effective functioning and contribution of women to the development of Africa. So it's reflection and also gauging the way forward. Today, and I want to say that both men and women, we are being presented with an opportunity to come together, to network and to organize ourselves, to marshal efforts in the strengthening women's rights and their participation in the social, economic, as well as the political development and transformation. Empowering African girls and women should be central to each and everybody's planning. And I want to say that this is also central to Africa's future. We all know that women form 50%, more than half of the world's population is women. To achieve the continent's development ambitions, Africa must harness the skills. And these are the over half of the population that we are talking about. And we should also harness the energy and creativity of all citizens, enabling both women and men to reach their full potential. The more we create the systems and environment which enable women to participate fully in the economy and society, the more they will contribute to Africa's growing prosperity. I want to believe that that goes without any questioning. As we dialogue and collaborate as stakeholders of the African higher education sector towards achieving Africa's continental initiatives, such as the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, that is the 1625, and the African Agenda 2063, we realize that the onus lies on us to create an environment and a world that is free from stigma, a world that is free from stereotype, and a world that is free from violence, and therefore a future that is sustainable and peaceful, with equal rights and opportunities for all. And when I say all, it's for both men and women, for the girls and the boys. We need women and young girls to feature prominently at every table where decisions are made. The ratio of women to men in leadership positions in African education institutions needs to be drastically improved. We can ask ourselves, how many female vice chancellors are women? Take the whole of Africa, and I want to share with all of us that we could be talking about 3%. And what does that mean? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to refer to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5, which targets the achievement of gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. The underlying word here is all. We are referring to all women and girls. This means we cannot afford to leave any woman or girl behind our African higher education institutions. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, how many young women have made it to higher education? How many of them have not made it to higher education? And what are the reasons behind this? And bias is the #1 answer that I can be able to mention at this moment. And therefore, our theme today, breaking the bias in African higher education, equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, is apt and very timely, because it's about time that all of us as stakeholders put in extra effort to remove all the biases which exist at our respective institutions. And I want to say this starts with me. Each one of us should say it starts with me. We are encouraged to choose, to challenge, and call out the gender biases and inequalities that we encounter. We just cannot afford to keep quiet and look on unconcerned as the statistics and reality continue to be unfavorable to our women. A study, allow me to refer just to 1, 2, 3 studies. One of the studies by the Education Sub-Saharan Africa on higher education staff and academics in Ghana, for instance, shows that only 8% of professors at public universities are women across the country. Referring to statistics by UNESCO, only 24% of the academic staff in tertiary education across sub-Saharan Africa are female. And again, the African evidence research, which profiles African-led research, also shows that out of 2,510 researchers in the database, only 32% are female. These are statistics that we need to think through and work together as stakeholders to position ourselves going forward. All these pointers and indicators require stakeholders in higher education. And when we talk about this, we are referring to the vice chancellors. We are talking about the deans of students. We are talking about heads of departments, researchers, students, administrative staff, policymakers, development partners, business and industry, and most important, government. Of all of us gathered here to change the narrative. It's the responsibility of all of us without anybody being left behind. This is important because the imbalance in the education spectrum does not only affect the women, but the entire country, and at most the entire continent. And this is affected in different ways. I want to refer to the African Women Educationalists Policy Brief, which highlights the need to shift to more holistic gender responsive strategies, which also addresses issues affecting women's abilities to fully engage and perform within institutions. We need to work synergetically towards improving on the current situation where women are underrepresented in fields such as science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The unconducive environment in higher education, which perpetuates gender inequalities, and the low numbers of women in leadership roles are all issues which require critical attention by all of us. Because when women and girls are unable to effectively participate and obtain the critical skills and education on the same level as boys and men, it has a huge effect on their future and the kind of opportunities that are available to them. Now, what should we focus on as we move forward? And what practical steps should we implement collectively to change the narrative? Just a mention of a few. One, we need to introduce innovative initiatives and programs that encourage our young girls to participate effectively in higher education, to enable them receive the requisite skills to job market. Number two, we need to ensure that girls and women are safe from violence at all times, including sexual violence, and this should be prioritized. The third one is promoting the effective participation of women in fields such as agriculture, climate change, energy, and STEM, just like I've mentioned above. And the fourth is the gathering of data and statistics, which is also instrumental on shedding light on issues which have been affecting women in African higher education. This is a task that we want institutions such as the Women in Higher Education Network to pick up. We need to continue to spark relevant dialogues and informed debates which shed light on the need to promote gender equity in our universities. And we also need, we women ourselves have to play an active role in changing the narrative. I know the previous speaker mentioned this and I don't want to repeat, but we also need to ensure that our institutions put in place measures at the top level of strategy development and implementation to promote women empowerment. We need to take advantage of the technological advancement to create opportunities and a more enabling environment for women to pursue their academic and career goals, while it's balancing this with their natural biological role. As I conclude, allow me to say that indeed the list can go on and on. My kind request to all of us is to start implementing the requisite change from this very minute in our own corner, no matter how small it may be. I want to thank you all for your attention and know that we can continue to count on your collaboration and engagement as we work together to accelerate progress on gender equality across the continent and specifically in the African higher education sector. I want to end at that and again, thanking all of us. I know in one way or the other, we've contributed to women empowerment. And I would want to say, let's continue, and the struggle continues. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Martha. Thanks so much for your presentation. I think we want to acknowledge Fawe for all the good work that you are doing in terms of working with women and ensuring that women are given the opportunity to excel. We really appreciate that. I think you had also called on all of us to start, no matter how small, and at our own small corner. So we are encouraging all of us so that the next time we meet, we all will be able to account for what we have done in our various institutions. You also made a call to Wohen to try to gather some data and statistics. I know all the members of Wohen are gathered here with us, as well as the leadership. So this is a point well noted, and we hope that Wohen will take it forward. Thank you very much once again for making time to join us. I think at this point, we would move straight to the next part 2 of the program, which is our panel discussion. And the high-level panel will be moderated by Madam Dr. Beatrice Kamati Njenga. So I would like to briefly go through her profile. And also just to announce that interpretation services has been activated for this session as well. So our Francophone brothers and sisters can please tune in and follow the interpretation from English to French. Dr. Beatrice Kamati Njenga, she's actually one of the founding members of Wohen, of the Women in Higher Education Network, and we are very happy to have her join us here. She is currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the International Leadership University in Kenya. She's an educationist and an environmental scientist. She worked previously at the African Union Commission, specifically with the Department of Human Resources, Science and Technology. And prior to joining the African Union Commission, she taught at the Appropriate Technology Center of Kenyatta University for many years in Kenya. She worked locally and internationally in the areas of education, energy, environment, sustainable development with government, non-governmental, and community institutions for many years. She has done significant work in youth mentoring and empowerment, as well as gender mainstreaming and women's empowerment. Her major areas of research and teaching are renewable energy and technology development. I would like to hand over to our facilitator for the panel discussion, who will introduce the panelists and then proceed with the questioning and the answer session. Thank you very much. If Dr. Njenga is connected, would like her to take over the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm very happy and excited to be here. We are running late, so I will keep to what I should keep to. We have had some statistics and challenges. We have had some forward strategies, and now we're going to hear how some of them are being operationalized. We have a high panel of amazing achievers who are excelling in their professional arena while championing women, promoting their access to and success in higher education, research and training, and supporting women to achieve their potential for the best outcomes for our communities, institutions, and nations. And I'd just like to appreciate AAU for leading from the front. So I'm just going to go quickly and briefly through the bios of our eminent panelists so that you know who we are, who we will be listening to. One, Professor Amani El Sharif is the elected Vice President of Pan-African University and is a professor of microbiology and immunology and the current Dean of the Faculty of Pharmacy in Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. She's an internationally renowned expert with assignments with WHO Bacterial Priority Pathogen List Advisory Group, a member of the Advisory Committee of African Patient Congress, and the evaluation processes of American Accreditation Council of Pharmacy Education, among many other credentials. She's also a board member of the National Committee of Women in Science. And there's a lot more. I hope AAU will put them at least on their website. And then we have We have also a young aspiring academic, almost PhD, Temitope Adewole, who is a PhD student. She has worked at the Nigerian Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research in Lagos. She has taught agricultural science and geography in high schools and also at the university. And her PhD is in fisheries science at the African Center of Excellence in Coastal Resilience, University of Cape Coast, Ghana. She has a passion for teaching, and she's a member of many academic societies, a rising star indeed. And next Women's Day, I bet her list of accolades will be even longer. We have Dr. Rita Bisnot, who presently heads the African Union International Center for Girls and Women's Education in Africa. It's CIEFA in short, it's the French acronym. It's based in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. And Dr. Rita was honored as one of the 100 most influential African women, and we are going to hear from her. Before moving to Ouagadougou, she was senior policy officer in education at the African Union Commission, and she has also worked as a senior lecturer in Mauritius at the Mauritius Institute of Education, and also at the University of Quebec in Montreal. We have also a man among the women, Dr. Nsikak Abasi Etim. He holds a doctorate in resource and environmental economics. He's a senior lecturer in the Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension at the University of Uyo in Nigeria, and a member of International Panel of Experts of the African Academy of Sciences, Alliance for Accelerating Excellence in Science in Africa, a member of Evaluation and Honorary Awards Committee of Graduate Women in Science, a UNESCO coach for teaching girls on the application of artificial intelligence in climate change, a mentor to female STEM students in several African countries, and many other activities where he has been supporting girls and women in education. We truly value the men who support women. That is our panel. We appreciate and value the women leading from the top, and we wish to hear more on how they got to where they are and how they can do, what more they can do to end the gender bias in higher education. And okay, sorry, just to move to another page. Right, so here they are. They're going to keep time. There are women and a man in high places. They could not have gotten there by wasting time. So we know we will be able to hear from all of them, and then we will have time for the rest of us to ask them questions and make comments. So to start off, because many would like to learn from you, can you kindly tell us in 2 minutes what were the facilitative factors to getting you to where you are? And this is to each one of you. I would like to begin with Dr. Rita. 2 minutes each, please. Dr. Rita.
Yeah, that's a very good question. What I want to say is that I think parents are key. Parents are key in being the instigators of what their children want to be and where the children are going to be. So I want to say that kudos to my parents for always insisting that one day I would go to university and get a profession and work as a professional. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Parents are key, very important. Professor Amani, can you tell us facilitative factors to getting you where you are?
Good day. Actually, it's because I think I live in a community which believe in competency regardless of gender. This is the most facilitating factor for me. We always here in Egypt evaluated according to our capabilities, not according to our gender. And this is the most important factor, and I hope to be disseminated all over the continent. And so I very thankful and appreciate all the leaders that give me the chance to prove my capacity and capabilities.
Thank you so much. So we have a community culture, a community culture of merit, appreciating everybody for what they bring to the table, irrespective of gender. Thank you so much, Dr. Etim.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Yeah, nice to meet all of you. I want to first of all thank AAU for giving me this opportunity to be amongst the women today. I want to thank the Secretary General. I especially celebrate women. The women are awesome. Women are valuable people. I cherish them so much. I don't know how the world would have been without women. So I celebrate with you this auspicious day. The factors that have helped me to be where I am today, first of all, I want to thank God. It's the grace of God. The grace of God has been sufficient unto me. Secondly, my parents have been were very supportive during my years in school, though they did not have the privilege of engaging or going to or attending university education, but their support was enormous. They supported me financially, they supported me emotionally. So I had tremendous support from my parents. That has helped me to be where I am today. Thank you.
Bringing in also, there was not contrary to your progress in education. Let's hear from Temitope. Temitope, our PhD student.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes,
good
we
afternoon,
can hear
everyone.
You.
Okay, I'm happy to be here too. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my views on this platform. Okay, so I also want to say a shout out to my colleague students out there. And I want to say that the facilitating factors that got me to where I am, just like the previous speaker said, number one is just the help of God, the grace of God, because without God, there's nothing virtually that you can achieve. Another thing is resilience and determination. Because as a good resilience and determination, I've been able to move on. And those are some of the key factors that I can say have helped me to be able to get to this level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Resilience and determination. We'll remember that. And another general question, based on what we have been hearing and what we know, surely, we have heard that men and women are equally capable. And therefore, to deny one against the other is being unfair. It's being unjust. And who is it who is watching over that? Who is making sure that justice is done? I'd like to suggest that integrity and leadership play a role on the status of women in higher education. What does our panel think? What's the place and the role of integrity and leadership in ensuring that achieve all they can, they access every opportunity that's available, and are treated as they ought? Anybody with a quick response, or else we'll go through the list. Our panelists.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know whether I should speak first.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. I want to say that if you plant honesty and strong morals and strong moral principles, you will definitely reap trust. So women in higher education with high moral standards, when they are in positions of authority, positions of leadership, they will be looked up to by men with very high expectations, given the fact that they are operating in a male-dominated society. So, high moral standard and integrity is a valuable resource that will earn women the trust and confidence in leadership positions.
Thank you.
I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Professor Amani, do you think leadership and integrity have a role to play in ensuring that women have equal access to higher education?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
I'm talking about leadership and integrity.
Yeah.
Do they have a role to play in ensuring that women access every opportunity as they ought?
And actually, across the history, women proving that they are successful leadership in all fields. Actually, they were a leader in as a healer, as a caretaker, as a physician, pharmacist, nurses, counselor. So I think across the history, women are successful leaders, and also in development of their communities, and they have a catalytic role in transformation for economy and society and so on. And it's pity that they didn't have enough access to credits of resources and healthcare and education. And I always use the quote that when you learn a man, you just learn a man. When you educate a man, when you educate a woman, you educate a generation. So women in leadership, they are struggling to have a role as a successful leader, because they have something not found in men, which is the feminine energy, and the feminine energy drive everything towards success, and they never give up. And also, as a woman, I always say also that woman is a candle that can enlighten the environment, her surrounding environment. And through this platform, I asking everyone to not let the candle melt in our closet.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Rita. The leadership where you worked, did the leadership make a difference? Are you where you are because there was integrity in the leadership? Or did that not matter at all?
Maybe I just, I'm not sure you can see me, but I hope you can hear me. What I want to talk about is about women leadership in higher education institutions. And this has been talked about by Fawe. And out of the 1,500 universities in Africa today, only 40 of those universities are headed by women vice chancellors. So this still shows that leadership of women is still a big challenge. Only 6% of African women participate in higher education processes as students, as faculty members, or as administrators. So women's representation at higher education, most especially in STEM areas, in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the often unconducive environment of higher education institutions perpetuates this gender inequality and the lack of women in leadership roles in higher education institutions. And I want to come back to integrity. And I think, as Dr. Christine earlier mentioned, is that when women are in senior leadership positions or in leadership positions, they are regarded as being hard. They are being regarded as manly, in inverted commas, and which are not true. I think women have higher integrity, higher values than many men when we compare. So leadership and integrity is very, very key in gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from Temitope concerning leadership and integrity.
Yeah, in my own view, I see that integrity is very important. We've been talking about the fact that women are being sidelined. And that is why we need to take integrity as very, very important. Integrity will help us to be able to get a better opportunities in future. For instance, when we are given an opportunity and we take up that opportunity with integrity, we'll be considered for better opportunities in future. Like funders, they want people who have integrity to commit their funds to. And so that's why it's very important for us to be able to have integrity. And also we'll be able to gain the confidence of our men, more by the time we have, integrity in all that we do as women. In the aspect of leadership, our leaders should believe in the ability of the women folk. Our women also that get to the leadership position should believe in fellow women, because there have been situations where people, they talk about the fact that when a woman gets into a high position, she doesn't want, fellow women that are under her to come close to where she is. And so we should avoid that bias even among ourselves. So in leadership, we should try to believe in the ability of women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm from the International Leadership University, where we are committed to multiplying leaders of integrity, because we believe that it's the leadership. And if that leadership has integrity, that is what will determine whether there'll be justice and fairness, whether women will be given their rightful positions, whether resources will be, managed, stewarded appropriately, which is why integrity is so close to my heart. And I believe in many cases where women have been sidelined, it's been purely a lack of integrity, and then leadership that is not sufficiently knowledgeable or with the appropriate attitude towards equality. So as we continue, Dr. Rita, you hold an enviable position addressing a huge challenge of women and girls' education in Africa. Could you please tell us what difference is the African Union making to get more girls through the tight education pipeline into higher education through your work at the helm of CIEFA?
Thank you again. So first of all, I want to talk about the vision of the African Union, which is our document, which is Agenda 2063. Africa's human capital, which says that Africa's human capital will be only fully developed as its most precious development through sustained investments in early childhood and basic education, as well as sustained investments in higher education, science, technology, research, and innovation, but most importantly, the elimination of gender parities at all levels of education. And I think this is very key, and this is where we are working at the African Union International Center for Girls and Women's Education. Our strategic plans, we are now on our third strategic plan, which is based on gender intelligence, making sure that there is a collaboration between men and women and understanding each other, the differences and the similarities that both genders have. But most of all, what are we working on at the AUCFR? I think the most important is that before we get into higher education, we need to get a basic education, a primary education, and a secondary education. Without access to secondary education, we cannot go into higher education. And we just have to look at the numbers of women who are enrolled in higher education compared to men. We only have about 7% of women who are enrolled in higher education compared to men, around 10% in 40%. So we still have a law that the legal instrument highest level by our heads of state and governments are domesticated and implemented at the national levels. And this is why we work with parliamentarians at the Pan-African Parliament to discuss with them to build their capacity on legal jargon. We discussed on then why are they having so many troubles, so many issues in implementing the policies which enable access and make sure that girls and boys, of course, have the 12 years of schooling, which is something that has been ratified at the highest level. We also work with our youth. As we know, we have over 60% of our youth who are under 35 today, and we have capacity building workshops where we build the capacity, the confidence of our young women. And I think Professor Christine earlier mentioned what is the disconnect between secondary education and higher education. And I think one of the disconnects is most certainly this confidence. As women, as young women, as girls, we do not have the confidence. And it is very important to build the confidence of our young women into pursuing higher education, going into leadership positions. And this is where our capacity building workshops come in. We have one every year. We have right now over 250 alumni with whom we work regularly. They have a lot of projects. We follow them on their different projects. And what is most important is that the alumni now have projects which have been presented to different partners. We make sure that we are part of the process, that they are part of the process with the different collaborators, private sector, philanthropists, UN organizations. We have also initiated visits of our different alumni, our young men and women. As I said, we are working on gender intelligence. We should not forget the young men. We have brought them to visit universities. For example, we just last year in October, we went to visit the Virtual University of Senegal, which is based more on technology, mathematics. And I think it is very key for them to have this interaction with other students and build this network of young leaders of tomorrow. Another thing that we have been doing at the AUCFR is that we have had a case study of 4 Pan-African universities. The African Union has set up 5 Pan-African universities. The 5th one in South Africa is still to be set up. And our objective of this case study was to map out a general scenario of gender-sensitive learning environments in the different institutes of the Pan-African University. And finally, at the end of this research, of this case study, we found that there was need to come up for more policies on ensuring gender-sensitive teaching and learning environments in these universities. But this is not only the case for the Pan-African University, this is the case for many of our universities around the continent. And this is why we would like to partner with the AAEU to make sure that we can work with other higher education institutions in the continent to make sure that gender-sensitive policies, that our teaching and learning environments become gender-friendly, gender-sensitive, that our curricula responds to gender criteria, that gender is mainstreamed in the curricula, in the teaching and learning resources. And finally, I want to say that what we are doing right now, COVID, unfortunately, has been here for the past 2 years. The schools, especially secondary schools and primary schools, have been closed for the past 2 years, many universities. Many girls have dropped out of schools. We have a high rate of girls who have been married off, pregnant, who have not had an opportunity to not access continued learning. And this is why we came up with our campaign, which is called the Africa Educator Campaign, which is a rallying call to all our AU member states, to development partners, to our youth, to make sure that there are projects, that they make pledges to ensure that girls go back to school. And we have received over 250 pledges where our community, where our youth leaders are working to make sure that the girls go back to school. But most importantly, we are working with our AU member states to make sure that they track the number of girls who are going back to school, that they make sure that there are continued learning classes, strategies for girls. So I will stop here. I know my time is finished. Thank you very much again for this opportunity.
Thank you. It's very important to hear this so that we know that if there's gender imbalance in our institutions, it's not for lack of policy at the continental level. And therefore we can go back and say, this is what we have agreed as Africa in terms of ensuring access for women and girls into higher education and everything that comes with that. But apparently from what Dr. Rita is saying, there may be a challenge with policy at institutional level, which perhaps led to what we had earlier, that when we got a female vice chancellor in one university, suddenly the salary was seen to be too high for a woman. So policy at that level. And also thank you, Rita, for mentioning that the pipeline is very important. If we don't have girls and women going through from early childhood, then we will not have them up there to take up leadership positions. So Professor Amani, you coordinate the Continental AAU in North Africa, and as well as being the Vice President for Pan-African University. How can institutional collaborations help women to access resources and opportunities in higher education?
Yes, first of all, let me greetings EEU for their support for women and establishing this platform every year. This is very important and vital role. And how to support access of women to resources, we need to collaborate. We need a powerful agent like AAU to release a call for regional, local, and international organization for collaboration for providing scholarship and different chances for women. Of course, there is some, but it is not enough. And I also cannot agree more with Dr. Rita that this scholarship shouldn't be only for women in higher education, because the pipeline should be full of educated women from secondary school, so they can access to the higher education. Also, it's very important and crucial to consider the impact of women when they get enough access and be a key players for achievement in the society, not only the society, but also for the environment and the climate impact, because they are bearing the highest burden of this, and also they are the leader to driving the change in the climate adaptation and the mitigation. So it's very important to give this the enough source through collaboration between different organizations by providing enough information for them. And right now, due to the pandemic of COVID, one of the pros of it is to have accessibility for data and resources on internet. So every institution like higher education, like AAU, should provide enough resources about all the challenges that face our development and achieving the sustainable goal, not only the 17 UN sustainable goals, but also the agenda of the Africa we want 2063. It's very important to encourage women and through the institutions, because as all of us know, women are very resilient and they accept the challenge, and it's difficult to beat a woman in any battle, because they have the gut distance of surviving all the time. So it's very important, and also I cannot close this part of the discussion without mention the Ukrainian women and girls, the hero of this time, and in the Women Day to stand with them and to ask them to be Brazilians and never give up, and hold the unfailing hope, surviving, and use their education to overcome these vulnerable conditions. Our sympathy and profound solidarity for all of them in this special day. And please don't consider the Women's Day is a celebration day. Actually, it's a call, it's a warning, it's a kind of a campaign to ask the people and ask the world that half or more, maybe more than half of the world or the global community are not giving the enough opportunity to show their capabilities, and we cannot achieve the peaceful environment, the development we need without the support of the women, and we should break the glass ceiling to achieve what we are we want to go to. So please, we need, of course, we need science, but science need women. So we should collaborate our efforts, and this is a very important platform today, that we are from different parts of Africa. We can consider ourselves as a nucleus to support each other by every means of support. We can sharing our resources, we can sharing our knowledge, our skills, our consultation services together to support each other for a better tomorrow. Finally, collaboration, between different organizations is the key component to get the enough resources for women to achieve what they supposed to achieve, and be confident that without that we will never develop our continent the way we want. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Collaboration.
Yeah.
Professor Amani says collaboration is important. Mutual support, resource sharing is going to help women to get to where they want, but not only women. Apparently, there are resources that are available through collaborative initiative. Thank you so much. I see on the chat that policy implementation is the challenge. That is policy, but it's the implementation that's a challenge. I've also seen that teaching and learning should be organized to instill the confidence that girls need. So teaching and learning processes, pedagogy, we need innovation in that area to help bring up the girls to become women in higher education, women leaders, and all the things that we are discussing here. Thank you so much. I'd like to move on to Dr. Etim. No, women do most of the menial labor. The picture often used to show stories about agriculture in Africa is a poor woman carrying a handheld hoe. I know we are all familiar with that. How are you and women in higher education and research and extension working to change the picture? Is it an issue at all? Because remember, it affects a huge percentage of the population, and higher education and research is where we have our high intensive of intellectual.
Hello. Yeah,
Hello?
please. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Can I share my screen? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
That's for now.
1 minute, please.
Okay, I don't know if it's organized for participants to share their screen. Can you please tell us what you're doing in higher education, research and extension to address the fate of the African agriculture story? The part of it that has a female face. Yes.
Access to be able to share your screen.
Remains. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please. Kindly go ahead.
Could we have Temitope while Dr. Tim organizes for screen sharing, AAU? So please organize with Dr. Tim to share the screen. Meanwhile, I'd like to ask Temitope, you're on the threshold towards joining the top cadre in education. From your experience, what should be done to help more women to access and succeed in PhD studies? We are aware that the dropout rate across the continent for women in PhD studies is quite high. Tell us from your experience.
Thank you very much. One of the things I think will help women to be able to access and succeed in PhD studies is funding. There should be more funding for women. And at this junction, I want to give a kudos to AAU and World Bank for their collaboration concerning the African Centers of Excellence. They gave quite a good quota to women to be able to access, the scholarship. It's 30%, although I know that can be improved upon. But at least it gives, women more opportunity to be able to access the funding. For instance, sharing my own experience, I took up a form for a PhD, to start a PhD several years ago, before now. And I had to drop off because of funding and also some family issues. Women, we usually have some family pressures that make us to, but funding also contributes a lot to it. In fact, if you have funding, it will help to reduce some of the family pressures on you. So there's need for funding to be increased for women, and then a platform should be given so that more women can be able to access the funding. Just like I told you, I got an admission to Wohen University in the US to study higher education administration. And because I didn't have a scholarship to do that, I had to give up the admission. So apart from funding, another factor that I see that is key is the age limit factor. The age limit factor should be expunged in our applications. In many PhD applications, I've seen the age limit to be 35. And, just like I said earlier, there are factors that make women not to be able to proceed in pursuit of higher education, whether in the master's level or the PhD, especially the PhD level. I told us about the funding aspect and also the family pressures. So All this kinds of slows down the women folk in accessing higher education. And that is why some at a particular level, they give up on pursuing higher education totally. They'll feel, oh, over the age limit that they are asking to apply for funding. So it means I can't even do it again. But we should not give up. And funders should remove age limits from funding of PhD applications so that more women can be able to access this. You know, going back to my own experience, I told you I'd picked up to start PhD earlier, but I had to drop up. So by the time I wanted to pick it up again, I was over 40. So if the African Centers of Excellence, if they are given an age limit, I wouldn't be here speaking with you. I wouldn't have the opportunity to be on this platform as a PhD student at the African Post Ghana. So another thing is, I know of a colleague of mine. We work in the same higher institution. That woman celebrated her 60th birthday last year, and she was part of the people that graduated. She graduated with a PhD degree this January at the University of Lagos, Nigeria. So that means that kind of woman started her PhD probably around 55. So if she wanted to apply for funding and she wanted to apply at the age of 55, she wouldn't be considered with the age limits that is being put for funding for PhD programs. So these two issues, more funding for women, and then the removal or expunging age limit factor from applications should be considered to be able to help more women to access and have success in PhD studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for bringing that out. Funding, definitely an issue, but probably across the board, and age limit. Yes, so we talk of equality, but we also talk of equity. We also talk of equity because the women, many of them will have been dealing with family issues, bringing more people to build the economy, necessary responsibilities for which, so thank you, Temitope, for bringing that up. And there's a question on women and girls with hearing impairment. We will address that after we hear from Dr. Etim. Dr. Etim, can you tell us, I mentioned the picture that often used to show agriculture in Africa is usually a poor old woman carrying a handheld hoe. And surely this is a picture we need to change. What are you doing and what more can be done through higher education, research and extension?
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to,
Tim, sorry to interrupt.
say that the picture you,
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to alert him that we'll be sharing his presentation from our end because he shared it with us earlier.
Okay,
So when it's ready, you should just alert us. We'll
okay,
share it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, please share.
Thank you for those putting comments on chat. Please keep it up. Yes, Temi, Dr. Etim.
Okay, thank you very much. The picture you see there on your slide, please go to second slide. The second you see on the second slide there where you see women farming. Agriculture, we know, has remained the major source of food and livelihood for most rural population and the engine of growth and poverty reduction. But regrettably, the agricultural sector in most developing countries is underperforming due largely to the fact that women who form the bulk of agricultural production are or face severe constraints than men that tend to limit their productivity and access to productive resources. The question is, why do women face these challenges? The answer is simply these women are uneducated and they lack the skills. Please move to the next slide, please. Why should women be educated? There are many reasons why women should be educated, but I don't want to go into details because of the economy of time. But I want to emphasize that women that are educated will have they have a higher likelihood of, or they have less likelihood of experiencing poverty. And they also have, the women that are educated are also have a higher likelihood of adoption of agricultural innovations. Studies by me have shown that educated women have higher likelihood of adopting agricultural innovations faster than the uneducated ones. We should also note that poverty and hunger experienced by uneducated women in childhood are usually passed on and have long-term impact on women's future potentials. First slide, please. The question now is, can the glass ceiling be broken? Yes, the glass ceiling can be broken with the support of men. First of all, there should be increased awareness on the need for girl child education. We have seen that in the African society, there is high preference for boy child. The first step in closing the gender gap should start from the family, and this should be initiated by the men. When you start treating your son as a king and your daughter as a slave, this is the beginning of gender inequality. Women and girls should not be treated by boys and men as less. Even worse in poor households, where sons or boy children are allowed to go to school and the girls go to school later. A situation where most of the household chores are given to girls, most of the household chores are performed by girls at home. Most of the responsibilities of children, of caring for a child performed by women should be discouraged. First, the first slide, please. There should be increased enrollment of women in universities. This is one of the ways of closing the gender gap. There should be increased enrollment through affirmative action. According to ESA 2021, there are 7.2 women enrolled in universities and colleges in sub-Saharan Africa compared to 10.4% of men enrolled. This is still a far cry compared to global average for women, which is 42%. Vice chancellors of universities and provosts of colleges, in conjunction with education bodies, should make deliberate policies to increase intake of women and girls in African higher institutions. Men should also be encouraged to enroll their wives in African higher institutions. Slide 5, please. We have the gender gap of university professors in Nigeria, as you have seen there. Or before this, we have the gender gap of university professors in Nigeria. We have according to 2022, out of the 11,877 professors we have in the country, there are 15.17% that are female, whereas 84.83% are men.
Thank you so much.
So okay, can I run off?
Thank you so much, Dr. Etim. Just tell us in 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you very much.
How research in research and extension, agricultural research and extension, is helping to change that picture for women to access agricultural technology.
Yeah.
In 1 minute, in 1 minute, please.
Okay, several studies we have conducted in agriculture have indicated, that there is adequate mentorship for girls, women. So research have shown that women that are inspired and mentored have a higher likelihood of performing higher engaging in higher education. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, our panelists. Please don't go away. We'd like to open the floor to get some comments and and questions. If I can just begin with this comment on women and girls with hearing impairment, but I'd also like to add those who are differently abled. How are they being helped to access higher education, to be successful, and even to get promoted when they are among the staff and faculty in the university? Can any one of the panelists take it? If a panelist is not ready to take it, can we have a response from the floor? 1 minute comment from the floor. Issue of women and girls with hearing impairment and those who are differently abled. Okay, I see several hands up. Dr. Mrs. Evangeline Anthony. Dr. Mrs. Evangeline Anthony, you're muted. Okay. Fatuma Abdu, your hand is up. Let's hear from you.
Yes, I am from Ethiopia. I
Yes.
have worked. Yes, I am from Ethiopia, from Wello University, Department of Sociology, and I have master's degree in gender studies, and I'm also assistant professor in gender studies. I conduct a lot of research in gender issue in Ethiopian context, and I observe that the main gap for women participation in higher education is our African cultures, gender discriminated and gender blind social structure that is patriarchy. And a lot of girls have married in their early ages. So the main gap is because of gender inequality in the participation of education in the lower level. Then we must work in the grassroots level to empower girls in order to achieve more and be effective in their education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatuma. So the culture is an issue that needs to be addressed. Ganiyu Bello. Ganiyu Bello. Are you able to speak?
Yes. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We
Hello?
can hear you. Can you proceed?
Okay.
You have 1 minute to
Yeah,
make
thank
your
you very much.
comment.
I have this issue with some subtle manner in which females are discouraged from education. Globally, when you talk about glamour industry, female dominates. And we all know that glamour industry, I'm not saying it's not good, but it lures women into making money that at the end of the day, their contribution in higher education is being sacrificed. So when you see advertisement industry, you see pageantries contesting for that, Big Brother Africa, you see it's not brother, it's Big Sister Africa. Most often than not, those who participate in this are predominantly female. They jettison higher education the moment they are able to make millions from that area. For the disabled individuals, let me say people with challenges, we need to encourage higher institutions to have facilities to educate them. Like in my own university, University of Ilorin, Nigeria, We have a center for supporting services for the deaf. We have increased our services to other physically challenged students, both male and female. This, I'm sure, is contributing to the participation of female in higher education. Other emphases in Africa need to take care of that too. Look at that area and then provide assets, special service to them to enable them participate actively. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And did we hear that that women prefer to make money in glamour than to pursue higher education? Do we have any response to that? Meanwhile, as we are thinking of responding to Professor Ikechukwu, Professor Ikechukwu, please have your say. You have a minute.
Thank you very much, the moderator, and thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity and wonderful day. First of all, let me join everybody in congratulating the Women's Day and being part of it. One of the things that you had mentioned was the issue about those who are both visually and physically challenged, people living with those challenges. It is a major problem in our continent, Africa, but also around the world generally, that the notion is we haven't yet taken care of those who, quote unquote, don't have these challenges, and how are we going to now devote this limited resources to those who, in some views, may or may not necessarily overcome these challenges, which is a misnomer, but unfortunately, we haven't yet been able to take advantage of records of accomplishments with challenges. So I just wanted to share that it is a problem of us being able to support those other views.
Thank you so much, Professor, that it's an issue around the world and needs to be addressed. Susan Akol, and then we'll have Winfred Arinaitwe. Susan Akol.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're muted.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Akol from Uganda, Busitama University, Faculty of Agriculture and Animal Sciences, working as a technician. I'm really so glad to be part of this team. I've heard all the panelists put across their views, and I was so much delighted with what Timitope put across. Truly, truly, I am equally a victim of such a circumstance. Studies hasn't been easy for me as a child, and it is as the same for other girl children for this country of ours. A girl child starts from a certificate and then moves to a diploma and then to a bachelor's degree. But at that point now, there will be no funds. And yet, when you look at that point, the girl will have attained more age than what would most of the funders would put across. So truly, age limit is really a constraint. Currently, I'm pursuing a master's degree of applied entomology and parasitology in Gulu University, but funding is an issue. When I try all funders, age limit is the issue. What shall we do as girls? What shall we do as women? So I really urge all of us in Africa to remember girls and not put age limits, because we lock out so many potential girls. Promotions at our institutions are equally an issue. You find that, for example, in my university, I am the only female technician in my faculty, but you find that all the males were promoted. I was left out as a woman. Reason being possibly I go through childbirth and all that, and it is challenging. It's really not something good. I pray universities try to put across measures that will enhance, that will encourage women to grow in education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, yes, for giving us another real life example of that age factor and apparent discrimination when it comes to promotions. Winifred, let's hear from you. You have a minute, please. And if you've already spoken, kindly remove your hand up so that we see clearly who's here to speak. Thank you. Winfred. Winfred? Winfred, you're muted if you're speaking.
Yes, hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes, you
Good
have your minute
afternoon,
now.
everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Alnaito Winfred from Kampala International University and Team University. I work as an HOD, head of department in the School of Applied Science and majoring in information technology. I'm happy to be part of this. Dr. Tiope, I don't know whether it's the right spelling. I'm very happy that you have raised pertinent issues that are affecting women in pursuing their studies that include funding and age limit. I would like to talk about another new topic that anyone has not talked about. That is sexual harassment. In promoting women, men usually look at them as sex materials. They would like even to go an extra mile before they promote them. So that is one of the issues that is hitting women on the head not to go any further in the administration and studies. And then before I quit, I would like also to talk about the age limit. In the African setting, children usually attend school at a very later age. By the time you get to the undergraduate level, you're already 28 or 27. You go to masters, from masters, maybe you go and get married, you want to produce children. By the time you go back for PhD, you're above 35. This issue of age limit for sure should be looked into and extended a bit for us to get very good numbers of female attaining higher education. If those three things are looked at, then we shall be at a very good stage to go with women education and leadership.
Thank you so much.
I submit.
Thank you. Thank you. Well received. We'll have just one more comment, and then we'll give our panelists 1 minute each to respond before we get a response from AAU and the coordinator of Wohen. So let's hear from Dora Yeboah. Dora Yeboah.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, I am Dr. Dora Yeboah. I am with Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration in South Gampa, Ghana. I would want to contribute to the reasons why women do not normally become successful at the PhD level. I'm sharing my personal experience. In my case, had it not been the support I received from my family, my loved ones, and the institution I work for, it would have been difficult for me to complete the PhD program. So this is where I'm coming from. If indeed women are to be successful at this level, then closer attention should be given to this kind of support. In addition to funding, I think this is a critical issue that must be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I can see there are more hands coming up. And unfortunately, we have come to the end as far as the time is concerned. So please write your comments on the chat, and AAU Wohen will put them together and see how this discourse can continue beyond this meeting. We should not have to wait until the next 8th of March. So thank you so much for the rich input from the floor. I'd like to ask our panelists to take just 1 minute to give a final statement based on what has been said, but also what you believe ought to be said at such a time as this. We begin with whom shall we begin with? Sorry. Let's begin with Temitope. Ms. Temitope, you have 1 minute for a last word.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Am I with you already?
Yes.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much. So I want to thank the organizers of this program once again for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my views on this platform. And I also want to encourage our women that are up there that they should try as much as possible to be involved in mentoring. That mentoring will help those of us that are upcoming to be able to get there so that we can have more women at top positions. So as part of our personal programs, as part of institutional programs, let's make sure we include a mentoring so that people that are upcoming can be able, to be encouraged, to be helped, to be able to attain a higher positions. And at the end of the day, we'll have more women in top positions in administrative level, in the academics, and in every sphere of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mentorship, very important. And I know FAWE is doing a lot on that front. Let's hear from Dr. Etim. You have your 1 minute. Dr. Etim. Can we hear from Dr. Etim? Is Dr. Etim still here? Okay, let's hear from Professor Amani.
Yes.
1 minute.
Final word. Please don't consider the Women Celebration Day just for celebration. It's awakening call because gender equality is not a basic human right. It is the basis for building peaceful and sustainable society, and also to mitigate the climate change. And I would like to use this opportunity to invite all African women to participate in the COP27, which will be held in Egypt in November this year, 2022. So let's move and prove that we are capable of making a change in our continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Gender equality, not just a human right, but the basis for just and progressive society.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Rita.
So allow me to thank the AAU and especially Professor Olushola for inviting the African Union to be part of this very interesting and very important meeting. I just want to make 2 comments on what has been said, and thank you to all the participants for being here and the comments that have been said. But I want to comment on the on what was said about glamour, about women being better off in glamour areas than in higher education. I think this still shows that we still have a long way to go in changing mindsets, and that we have a lot of comments today again on this important aspect of talking about age versus funding. And I think this is something that a lot of development partners, of funding agencies, philanthropists need to take into account, because this age issue is a very important one, knowing that a woman has many roles apart from being a professional. She has that of being a mother, a wife, etc. So something to put on the agendas. So as I only have 1 minute, allow me just to say Happy Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rita. Thank you. We appreciate that. Dr. Etim, is Dr. Etim?
Yeah, I'm
still
here.
kindly take
Yeah,
your
sorry,
1
I
minute.
had some connectivity issues. I just want to say that the female mentors and role models in a traditionally dominated male society is an inspiration to girls and women. There is what I call role model effect. So if AAU can partner with Wohen, I have the opportunity to mentor girls and women from across Africa, North America, and Europe. I have engaged with more than 30 international organizations on this. So AAU should partner with Wohen and form a mentorship program. They should develop a mentorship program that where professionals, women professionals, and men professionals too, will engage young girls and women through mentorship. This will inspire, this will motivate, this will help in shaping the career path of women that will help to close the gender gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we all deserve a clap for yourselves for being such excellent panelists and excellent participants. I apologize concerning the time, but I don't think there's ever enough time to discuss women's issues, which is why we must not keep waiting until the 8th of March. And AAU and Wohen, you're hearing, and in those who spoke, Fawe, all of you, you're hearing the, but also implementation. To summarize would really to do injustice to the rich discussions, but I'd just like to pick one or two things that were said to repeat that parents are key. So parents, whether they are natural biological parents or guardians, that's where it all begins. In fact, in the paper presented by Dr. Christine, Professor Christine, she was asking what are mothers teaching their children so that they become so gender insensitive when they grow up. But parents are key in all aspects, in attitudes, but also in developing the confidence and awareness that people need to know that one is not less because of their gender. And we've also seen that there are policies at continental level, and I know even at many national levels, at institutional level, there seems to be a dearth, but I know some institutions do have policies. Implementation is key. We must push for implementation. We must know what the policies are so that we can push intelligently and strategically for implementation. Collaboration is very important. Addressing the whole pipeline from early childhood, very important. Teaching and learning pedagogies have to be sensitive to this matter so that young people grow up knowing that if you're a girl, you're not any less. If you're a boy, you're not any more simply because of the gender, but that you are all equal and stronger together, better together. Ensuring facilities for differently abled, that's very important. We may need to look at the data. I think we were told that we are short on data concerning women in higher education, but also perhaps concerning different abilities. Funding issue has come up over and over again. Surely that must now be taken to another level to actually address the funders, whether it's families, governments, or donor agencies. Sexual harassment was mentioned only by one person, but I know it's out there. We keep reading about it, hearing about it, seeing it. Mentorship is being demanded for upcoming people, and so we have a long way to go, as Dr. Rita has said, but at least the awareness is there. As much as possible, let's push for implementation so that next time, next 8th of March, we will be seeing how far we have come in implementing, which we ought to do straight away, beginning from now. And my last remark is to do with gender equality, not just a human right, but the basis for just and progressive societies. And if we have leaders of integrity at every level, they will know that they ought to give women an equitable chance, equitable opportunities to excel in whatever they do for the betterment of society and for us to be able to make the most of our full human capacity. Thank you so much to all of you for championing women, promoting their bid to access higher education and achieve their potential. It's been an honor being here, and I hope to partner with some of you. Our forte at International Leadership University is developing leaders of integrity.
Thank you for the wonderful management
I'd like
of the
to
session.
hand over to the coordinator of Wohen for thank you so much. Yes, to you.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Beatrice Njenga. I think you'll all agree with me that she handled the session in a fantastic way. Yeah. I would also like to thank each and every participant that has joined us today and for staying with us. You are most appreciated. I would like to also thank the founding members of Wohen. Wohen is the Women in Higher Education Network. Dr. Beatrice Njenga is one of the founding members. I also know Dr. Elizabeth from Cameroon was also connected. Sheila Nabwama. Thank you very much for your support. We are extremely proud of where we've come from as a network. Thank you to the Secretary General, Professor Olushola Oyeola. Thank you to the keynote speaker and each panelist. You are all very special. You helped us to make this day what it has been. There are a number of people that have been supporting behind the scenes, and the key person that has led the preparations for this event is Mrs. Felicia Kwabeji. So Felicia, we appreciate you and the team that you have worked with. I won't mention each and every one, but people know themselves. My personal takeaway from this event is that we need each other. Men and women need each other. We can't exist alone. We can't do this alone. But also being a mother of boy children, I think my other takeaway is that we need to do more also to mentor the boy children and mentor the men to be able to support women that are successful. Because if we over-mentor the girls, then the men will find it difficult because they don't understand this new woman that we are creating for them. But I won't go through the summary of the key points. I think Dr. Beatrice Njenga did that very well. I would like now to hand over to Mrs. Felicia Kwabeji for a few announcements, and then we will close. Felicia, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Nodumo, and then to Dr. Njenga, as well as a high-level panelist for that wonderful session. I think it was quite engaging, and we have all learned a lot. At this point, we would like to quickly take a poem titled Step Up, Break the Bias by Dr. Cindy Suzo, and then I'll come back with announcements and we'll take a group photo and end the session. So if Dr. Cindy So is ready, Dr. Cindy Suzo is a senior lecturer in the Department of English at the University of Fort Hare in South Africa. She's a researcher, a professional editor, writer, and mentor. She is the founder of Girl Empower Mentorship Forum, and she has actually been with us in terms of participating in our Women in Leadership Conference, I think in Kenya, in Nigeria, and the last year events that we hosted to mark International Women's Day as well. If Dr. Cindy So is ready, we are calling you to take us through your poem, which we know will enjoy very much. And after that, I'll come back with brief announcement and then we'll take a group photo. So let's stay on, please. Over to you, Dr. Cindy. Is she there?
She did. Can you check?
Yes.
No, yes. Thank you very much. Let me just check if I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am humbled to be here and I appreciate the opportunity. Let me say Happy Women's Day to everyone. Thank you, colleagues. Without wasting much time, I will get into the poem. The title of the poem is Step Up, Break the Bias. I sit and reflect, opportunities long gone and going, conversations long drawn and doors slammed shut. Who to appoint, who to afford access, who to give opportunity, who to deem deserving, who to give resources. Bias binds minds. The battle rages on in boardrooms, long and drawn and chances gone. Unchecked, bias subtly clutches and clouds judgment. Silent and creeping, masking and blinding, binding and crushing, crippling and drowning the progress of women and girls. We sit together at the table. We share classrooms. We walk the same corridors, but we are not equal. Women are pushed aside. They are locked out. They are shut down, second class, out of caste, denied access, barriers, man-made, premature stops, door and jaw slams. An invisible gulf exists between us in these high spaces, slowing down our paces, swallowing our spaces, erasing our faces, drowning our voices. Bias ends lives. Bias, unseen but present, untouchable but imposing, snatching opportunities, slaying potential, thwarting development, extinguishing dreams, disempowering the woman. Step up and break this bias. End epistemic violence. Do your part. Take a step. Act to give women and girls a chance. Raise your voice to break the bias. Do it for justice, progress, and sustainability in society. Thank you so much. Happy Women's Day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cindy. Thank you very much. We appreciate it each time you join us with these wonderful poems, which are loaded with very important messages. Thanks so much. We were happy you were able to join us. Okay, so just to move on straight to the announcement, I think we want to say that we'll share the presentations with you. We've seen a number of you asking for it via the chat box. We would actually share the presentation. We'll also be sending the link to the recorded video so that we can always consult this recording and continue to learn from it. We'll also be sharing the link to joining Wohen. A number of people have indicated that they want to join Wohen. They want to come on board as partners so that we can together strengthen the network. We invite as many women as possible, as well as the men who are interested in women empowerment. Please come join us with your ideas and let's make sure that women in African higher education institutions are being empowered. Also to mention that Wohen has undertaken a number of scientific conferences where there are papers that are actually presented. We hosted one in Kenya and another one in Nigeria. We will again be hosting another big conference. And so just to alert you to watch out for information. We'll make sure that we keep you updated regarding this upcoming conference. The AAU also has a number of upcoming events that would want you to register to join. There's one which is holding on March 14th, 2022, and it is the 3rd edition of the COVID-19 Diary, which is brought to you by the AAU TV in partnership with the National Research Foundation of South Africa. And the theme will be vaccine development, variants, and herd immunity. I think it's been posted via the chat, so let's look out for it, and then let's try and register to participate. You can also check on the AU website and blog, and you will find information. We also have a number of quality assurance workshops which are coming up, so we want you to check on the AU website and blog, and please register to participate in these very insightful programs and capacity building workshops. I think that's it for the announcement. We would, at this point, want all of us to turn on our cameras while we take the group photo. But we thank all of you so much for your participation and for your contribution. We'll surely stay in touch with further communication via the emails. If we are ready, let's turn on our cameras. And please give us a nice smile. Okay, Madam Bumi, one of our colleagues is the one taking the photos. If she confirms that it's fine, I think we can go on. I request the other technical team members to also support with the photo taking so that we don't miss anybody. Okay, I think slide 1 has been taken. We go to the next group. Some people still don't have their cameras on. Kindly turn it on briefly, if you can. Okay, slide 3. I think that will be the last one. Let's keep smiling because we don't know which slide we are appearing in. Okay. Okay, I'm still being alerted that it's left with the last one. I think the participation has been really great, and we thank all of you for making time to join us. They've loaded the last set of participants. Okay. Thank you all so much. This brings us to the end of our wonderful celebration to mark the International Women's Day. We want to thank the AAU Secretary General and all the leadership of AAU, as well as the leadership of the Women in Higher Education Network for bringing us this very insightful program. We also want to thank the keynote presenters in the person of Dr. Christine Mushebri, who is the Vice Chancellor, UNICAF University in Zambia, as well as Madame Martha Muwezi, the Executive Director of the Forum for African Women Educationalists. This is FAWE. We also want to appreciate our moderator, Dr. Beatrice Njenga, as well as all the high-level keynote presenters, Dr. Rita Bisunoth, who is the Director of the African Union International Center for Girls and Women Education in Africa, AUCFA Burkina Faso, Professor Amani El Sharif, who is the Vice President, Pan-African University and the Coordinator for AU North Africa Regional Office, Dr. Insikat Abasi, a male panelist from the Department of Agriculture, Economics and Extension, University of Oyo in Nigeria, as well as Madame Temitope Adewale, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Cape Coast. We also want to thank Dr. Cindy Sozo for the surprise you gave us by blessing the meeting with a wonderful poem. We appreciate all of you. We also want to appreciate all the participants. We've had not less than 200 people connected throughout the session. At some point, we went as far as 298 or so, almost 300. So we want to thank all of you for staying throughout the session. We appreciate you, and we say a happy International Women's Day to all of us. Let us continue the engagement. I think there were quite a number of events happening today as well. If you were able to jump in to contribute, we would encourage you to do so as well. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to connecting very soon and to sending all the communication that I made mention of. It's bye-bye from us here from Wohen.
Feli, did you give the notices? No?
Yes, please. I've given all the announcements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, and we will connect soon. We also want to thank our interpreters. I think the French session also went on well. We will do well to improve it the next time and to see the possibility of adding other languages, Arabic and Portuguese, which are all the formal communication languages that we use. I think it's bye-bye from us. Madame Nodumo, if you can confirm that.
Yes, yes, please, Feli. Thank you.
Okay, all right.